Hey everybody, it's the Old Weep, and here talking about Light Yagami. Now, this character has been talked about, dissected, argued, debated, yada yada throughout the years of my time, both as on the internet and as an anime fan. He's such a particular case of what happens when absolute power corrupts absolutely, and the idea of someone who could start out being good and turn to evil because of hubris, ego, grandiose sense of self, etc., etc. But what I'm here talking about today is how I don't believe light is evil, and I'm sure you've seen very other videos talking about light psychology. What I was speaking to the fact is light can be anyone because light is human, and we all have the ability to become Light Yagami. Let's get into it. Please remember to like and subscribe, and also go into the join the Discord to have me give more anime breakdowns and discussions. When it comes to Light Yagami, I know that when it comes to his character, that he is always characterized as, the fallen tragic hero, the person who wanted to do good and let himself become corrupted by the evils and powers of being able to just kill anyone who gets in his way or he believes is not good for the world, as he claimed to be the god of the new world. And while the grandiose side of his personality is easily able to be dissected, what I'm talking more of the fact that if you are a decent person and you have the ability to get rid of someone who you believe is evil, bad, etc., what would you do if you given the power to just get rid of them? Like, the ideas about how one can just go through their thought process of what can be imaginative versus reality is not really discussed, because it leads people to kind of question you of wishing harm upon others and the idea of basic humanity. But ultimately, we all have this kind of thought process that there are people we wish harm upon that have hurt either ourselves, our loved ones, or people that are just close to us in general. Maybe not someone you actually love, but sense of empathy and humanity that we all inherently share. And you believe that getting rid of people who genuinely hurt people around you is a net positive, even if it can do damage to your soul. Ultimately, there's a level of spirituality and religion that goes into the idea of what you believe will be the ultimate end of your life and how your action will be reflected upon your death. And what comes to that is we all go through these thoughts and feelings, we're just never vocalizing it. And I think when it comes to light, he is the personification of someone who actually follows through with it because he has the means and ability to do so. Like, if you look about it in this way, Batman as a character is the idea of how could I stop crime if given the money and the resources, because he doesn't have powers, as we all know, but he has money, and with money gives you ability to buy and access and all kinds of resources that the average person would not have. We all, I believe, inherently want to do good in the world. We all want to be able to help people, but sometimes we are unable to help either through financial reasons, morality reasons, etc., etc. And ultimately, if given the ability to help with no drawback or no cost to us, would you do it? And most people, I believe, say yes. And Light idea is that he wants to help everyone, even at the cost of killing people who he deems unworthy. Now, you could argue that, why should anyone get to judge good, evil, etc.? We live in a time where people throw around terms all the time that have denigrative histrionics and that try to put that on somebody that they don't agree with, and then kind of like poison the well in a way of saying that now this person doesn't deserve, a voice to live, etc. Very, very trying, polarizing times. So the idea that someone's individual judgment of a person or their character could lead to someone having ultimate power is a terrifying concept, which is fine because we are all human and we all kind of know that if given the power and opportunity, there are some people who would bring harm upon us for a simple difference of opinion. And I think the difference here with Light is Light has always, until when dealing with L, the police force, the task force, etc., he had a straight arrow mentality that criminals are bad, people who bring harm to others are bad. And there's nothing we can really disagree upon that. Rapists, murderers, etc. should not be allowed to just walk freely or have a chance to harm others. And I think there's a difference between those who, do a bad thing and make it a mistake versus those who are repeat offenders. Repeat offenders in a lot of people's minds are irredeemable and should not basically ever be allowed to walk among us again. And when it comes to that, I feel like that's a common thought process. Just people don't want to vocalize it because there's this kind of weird, like, society cultural idea that everyone deserves like a second chance or a redemption. But like at a certain point, I think you can't keep going with something that is clearly not working. People show you who they are faster than they show you that they can change. Because change is hard. Change is extremely hard. And most people do not want to change upon themselves because either through histrionics of their family, personal experience, or just personal belief. Like, people do not want to change their minds on anything. And when it comes to this idea of like, well, what should we do with people we disagree with? It's like, there should be a discussion. People who generally want to harm others, what discussion can there be? And when it comes to Light as a character, I think a lot of us kind of always usually compare him to Lelouch in terms of the end justify the means kind of characterization. And I would say the difference being is that with Lelouch, it was an act of war. There was an active like conflict between two countries and a nation where the kind of rules of society are not the same when it comes to Light. It's the idea of like a soldier who kills a combatant during war times is a hero, but a soldier who kills someone during peace times is a murderer. Because it's just a different kind of code of ethics when you're in active conflict. But when it comes to Light, compared to Lelouch, Lelouch always kind of knew the threat and dangers that were posing an entire nation and how they're under a nation state and how they're being occupied, so that there's danger around every corner and he knew who he could trust and who he could get rid of. While with Light, he lives in a civilized society, a civilized Japan, a most normal Japan in relation to an anime world, and he had a supernatural power that allowed him to essentially be God in that case, while Lelouch had the ability to essentially control anyone he needed to at a given moment, but only once. And I was thinking the thing that comes to these two characters is that Lelouch had to be extra careful because ultimately, if someone figured out what he could do, it could cost him his life. But with Light, if anyone figured out what he could do, he could just remove them as soon as he learned their name. There's just a difference in their power dynamics when it comes to what is their contingency plan, where Lelouch had to be smarter. And I would still say Lelouch is smarter than Light to this day. But Light's issue is that he ultimately always had a get out of jail free card, also the assistant of a Shinigami. Which again dictates to what I said about when given the ability to make a difference that has little to no drawback, what would you do? I 100% believe that if someone found a Death Note in this world right now, we would see the spike. It would be not like gradual, it would be really rapid. I could imagine like in a week or two, we could see so many people being just deleted. And we would have to try to figure out like how this is happening. And there will be some political aspects to it, of course, because that's just how the world has devolved to a political nightmare. But I think it's that Light Yagami is every single one of us. And no, I don't mean like the intelligence side, because not everyone could be smart as Light. Light was like a AAA student and top of his class and all this stuff. He was set up for success to be like a productive member of society, like a lot of us tend to be, at least with those who focus on their studies and their work and like are just passionate about something. But he, given the ability to make a real change in the world through a supernatural means, was all but willing as soon as he figured out it was real and it could work, and started just going. We all know the scene where it comes to him eating a potato chip. And it's just that is something that I think is the underrated aspect of the show, is that we're all like Yagami. We will all be that same position because we all have our own code of ethics and morals and a sense of righteousness that we believe what we're doing is correct for whatever reasons we want to give, the histrionics, etc. And Light's speech at the end is kind of like the idea of like, well, someone had to do it. Someone had to dirty their hands. Someone had to be the bad guy to be the good guy, because everything has a cost, and he's saying I was willing to pay it when you guys weren't. And I believe there's a lot of people in our world that would do the same kind of thing if caught up in that moment. So when it comes down to it, I think that we should approach the idea of like, how does someone control with power? Is more like, what does someone do with access and resources? Because ultimately, as I made the comparison earlier, Batman has resources and he doesn't kill. Light Yagami did not have resources but had the ability to kill. And it comes down to, how does he want to make his mark on the world? Batman could, of course, make changes financially in terms of like improving the city, potentially, moving people out, or just better funding in general. Or potentially, one could say, put down some of his rogues galleries so they won't just keep popping up. But the idea of that just kind of ignores the fact it's a comic book. Comic book characters, like, they don't want to keep making new villains. Like, they use their villains for a reason, and ultimately that makes perfect sense. But when it comes to Light and those kind of worlds, where it's like, well, how does one get rid of villains, like, permanently? Like, we can only jail them so many times before they keep popping up, and it's like, that's the difference. That's the realistic answer, and it's the realistic kind of quandary, is that ultimately, even if you give someone the benefit of the doubt, you give them a chance to redeem themselves, and they do it again, how many times are you going to let them out before, they do even more damage? And ultimately, that's why I think Light Yagami is not evil. Light Yagami is not even a really bad person. Light is human, like all of us. GG's, guys.
Stop what you're doing and listen.